And I'm going to go back here, redo that. Good afternoon, Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council Emergency Preparedness Committee meeting on December 10th, 2020. Meeting housekeeping, roll call. I've got a roster here of 39 people. I would simply ask if there's anybody who's attending right now that did not register, if you just speak up and let me know who you are. Give it a 1 potato, 2 potato, and then please go ahead. So we got Randy. Anyone else?
Steve, this is Corey Richter. I don't believe I finished my registration, so add me.
Okay, got it. Anybody else? Okay, with that, the recording is in fact on and rolling. Here's a meeting schedule. For the next 55 minutes, you're going to get to hear me blab, and other folks will be able to chime in as we go along here. Administrative meeting, as indicated, they'll do a 5-minute kind of like networking break, presentation change out to pick up Carla Coates and company over at HSEM, and we're really looking forward to hearing the effort that's gone on there with developing their COVID-19 response via GIS technology. We'll have things wrapped up by 4 o'clock, and then I'll leave everything running here from 4 to 5. If you want to clink beers against the glass on your computer screen, you'll have the opportunity to do so. So just kind of an open stretch there. That leads us to normally do a meet and greet, but given the volume of folks on board today, we're going to skip that. This is a call to order, and do I have a motion from the floor to open the administrative meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Contrary to normal life here, we're going to do it the other way around. Do we have anyone opposed to opening the meeting? 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4. With that, the meeting is opened. Next thing is approval of agenda. Are there any additions, changes, or deletes to what I've got posted up here for the agenda? Hearing none, we move on to updates, issues, and good efforts. Nose job? No, squirrel got me. Okay, anyway, past events. Here's what is in the rearview mirror right now. October 5th, 2020, I did a presentation online for the Illinois GIS Association Conference entitled U.S. National Grid Emergency Location Markers Coming to a Trail Near You. That I felt was a very effective delivery, good engagement with the folks down there in Illinois. October 28th, the U.S. National Grid Implementation Working Group online meeting. It's recorded, published, and available at that link. There's roughly 30 people from across the nation that are working on various elements of supporting the implementation of U.S. National Grid at all kinds of different levels, from Washington, D.C. into the academic community and boots on the ground like you see here in Minnesota. October 29th, the Underground Utilities Mapping Project Team meeting number 3 occurred. That group is, as I'll explain a little bit later, really starting to gain some traction, and I believe holds good things for the state ultimately. And then on December 9th, 2020, I was unable to tune into this. The Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council held their quarterly meeting online. And Corey, I'm going to jump over to you. Is there anything of specific nature from that meeting that would be worthwhile to share with the group here?
The biggest thing I would share with this group is just make sure we're still going to be reviewing the priority projects for 2021, and that we'll be having our meeting in January to set that. So if you haven't taken the survey yet, and I'm sure you probably have a mention of this later, but if anyone hasn't taken the survey yet to set GAC priority projects, do that, get it in by Friday.
Thank you, Corey. I've actually got a slide down the way, and you can talk to that when we get there. Okay. Upcoming events. December 17th, the Underground Utilities Mapping Project Team meeting number 4 is going to take place. January 6th, the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council's setting priorities meeting, as Corey is segued in on. And then January 21st, the Underground Utilities Mapping Project Team number 5. That group going forward, I just wanted to get into the general group awareness. They're meeting now on a monthly basis. The only time we skipped was this spread between Thanksgiving and Christmas, just the way that the date lined up in the months of November and December kind of put us at a place where we're just doing the one meeting in December. January 27th, the next U.S. National Grid Implementation Work Group meeting will take place. That's online, and the details are published again at that link. February 15th, February 18th, and February 18th again. We've been invited to present to the Wisconsin Land Information Association Conference. Randy and BJ Kohlstedt will be doing a 3-hour workshop presentation. Randy will be doing into the general conference delivery online. We'll be doing an intro to the U.S. National Grid. And then if he runs over on his 45 minutes, the guy behind him is going to be kind of mad because the next guy up is going to
Well, you've never done that to me, Steve, so why should I do it to you?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so Corey was talking to the priority survey, so here's some links for you. What this beast is the annual survey that's done by the state's Geospatial Advisory Council. And what it really boils down to is they're trying to get a compass reading on where, as a group, they should be thinking about focusing the efforts of the state going forward. This year's survey is unique in that it has a number of items that are on it that relate to emergency preparedness and response. Obviously, next generation 911, critical infrastructure data, U.S. National Grid map products, this underground utility safety / damage prevention, and drones. The majority of the questions in that survey, of course, will be focused into the geospatial community, but this is the opportunity for the emergency response community to make known their areas of need if they have them. So the last date I had, Corey, was December 13th, but are you saying it actually closes this Friday?
I believe if it should be, I was told it was open till the 11th, but it could be open to the 13th. So
Okay.
Play it safe and get it in by the 11th.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't know if they're going to extend it. I haven't seen that the plan is, but if they found that they weren't getting enough responses, they were talking about extending it, but don't count on that. Definitely get your vote in by Friday.
Okay. Allison Slats just chimed in and she said it is definitely the 13th.
Is it? Okay.
Yep. Okay. So thank you, Allison. And across the bottom of the screen, you see the link to go to the survey. And is there any quick and easy way online that folks could go to the MinGeo landing page and find a link to it or anything along those lines? Good question. We don't know. So the bottom line is there's the link. You're encouraged to take the survey. This is how the state gains understanding of what's important. And if they can't get that input from you, they don't know how to steer things. So help them out. Uh-oh. Okay, so I got a people update for you. Several of you know Guy Goshenko, who worked with Geocom. He put in a lot of effort into getting a common operating picture department up and running at Geocom. And apparently Geocom just felt that things were not, and I don't think please don't take this as being negative against Guy, because he was working his butt off as far as I was concerned, but apparently they felt like they couldn't get the traction fast enough and they actually cut that department. So he's in the process of retraining himself to help out vets over at the VA in St. Cloud, which I think is a very honorable thing. And maybe we can get them engaged back in with this group and helping things along. EPC IT, this is kind of retread on some of the stuff, but I just wanted to drive home the ideas that we've moved things along quite a bit in our phased effort to try to upgrade our IT capabilities. And so on the old emergency preparedness website that is still up, and I would really like to have this just be a redirect if at all possible, because there's a lot of dated stuff that's out of whack on this one that's owned by the state. And the redirect will take you to the new website where we've updated everything. And you can get there direct just by typing in mgacepc.org. And you'll get right to the landing page and everything's cleaned up. And we're going to be gradually migrating everything else over there that were items of support in general for the emergency preparedness and response community. And, you know, the first thing that we've brought up is this Minnesota situation awareness viewer. And you can get to that direct by minsave.org. And it's an effort to try to be able to develop a platform that will be available to the public going forward that will, you know, relate emergency response information. And it's all bundled up with the best possible data that we were able to put together. So that's kind of the front end of the operation. The back end of the operation, we've also set up a collaboration site, mgacepc.net. And .net, you'll find all the stuff that supports the various project teams and ongoing efforts to push things forward as elements of support. So once again, that's at mgacepc.net.
Hey, Steve.
Yep.
I just want to take a minute to formally thank you for all of the effort that you put in on that. And everybody should understand Steve's barely been doing a lot of that yourself, I believe. And it's huge.
I appreciate that, Randy. But, you know, this is just trying to work towards the point where we get enablement on making things works smoothly and effectively. And the IT pieces are also, we've got our own MailChimp account up. You've seen emails coming out of a Gmail account and the Eventbrite stuff. We've also put up social media and a YouTube channel. And just again, those items are not going to be used in the typical chatter, clatter, whatever kind of approach. But if you're a person that likes to get your information via Facebook or Twitter, whatever the case might be, through LinkedIn, what we'll simply do is publish meeting notifications on those sites. And so if you've liked us or are following us, as the case may be, you'll be able to receive those in the platform that you like to receive notification in. So Zoom going forward, we have our own Zoom account, and yours truly is wearing, I know it doesn't look like me, but I'm wearing a dunce cap on the fact that I had, and I passed this along as a lesson learned. I had no idea that that Zoom would wipe out a recording after it's been there more than 28 days, because every other platform I've ever used has basically kept the item there until you wiped it out. And the angle that they were working was, once you went over their preset limit, they started adding charges to your account. Well, this is kind of the downside of Zoom if you're not aware of it. So if you got a recording that's critical, the issue is, if you put it into the cloud like I'm doing right now, is making sure that you download it immediately and handle it elsewhere. Okay, so issues. Here we go. Do you smell carrots? Okay. Anyway, Placekey, for those of you that are not familiar with it, there have been a number of efforts that span everything from Google, what's the name of them? Codes. I forget the name of the Google code. There's a wide variety. What 3 words is probably the most common. of people that are attempting to try to create an opportunity to another way of defining location other than latitude, longitude, or our street address. So the newest entry into this, and I'm going to just show you a comparison. This was when they first rolled it out, and I showed the slide last time we were together, was that what we've got here is, hold on one second, I'm sorry. Allison has been busy letting me know that she's going to help us out with the priorities thing and get that placed on that MinGeo webpage if you want to do the survey. So that's kind of circling back to what we were talking about with the priorities piece. But this Placekey thing, this was the first time I entered it, and I'm sorry that this one's a little bit fuzzy, but this is Michael Baker International trying to come at this. Now look at the code down in the lower left-hand corner there. So that was the first attempt at trying to match my address. Now, this is the one I did this morning. It's coming up, I think. Here's what it looks like this morning. So now they got it circled on the house across the street, but that's okay. But once again, the code has changed. So I'm just trying to bubble this to the top to once again circle back to help folks understand why we place so much emphasis and work so hard on trying to bring the national standard known as US National Grid into the mix, both as a standard in the state and as a way going forward, because it's the FEMA endorsed way of relating location. And, you know, when you start seeing folks show up trying to sell you their own a proprietary approach to things, think twice before you wander on down that road. Right now, there's a proposed trails and bikeway data standard out there. I'll be contributing an item before the closing of the deadline on December 23rd. I know it always sounds like the only thing we're talking about is US National Grid, but there's a great way to implement US National Grid into the data standard that they're taking an approach at. And then last but not least, we're always in need of leaders. Right now, kind of unfilled functions within the committee right now, within the education world. Joella Givens long ago spent a lot of time on, and there were several others that participated in that, but the idea was a geospatial emergency management specialist. The idea was to be able to train up people in the state to a level of expertise about the emergency management world that those individuals also had a GIS background so that they would be able to effectively support the emergency services sector. And so there was a series of qualifications, and at the end of it, you know, you'd receive a level of designated capability. And the other thing there, that GPS units, another organization that I ran on the backside for almost 6 years, GITA, which some of you are familiar with, as kind of a parting arrangement when we left the services of providing the backside services to GITA. We inherited over at Share Geo 100 GPS units. And the idea was to try to pick up a program that had been outreach to the K through 12 community to be able to teach them the use of a GPS unit and to do little like courses in their backyard or at the schoolyard or whatever. Well, COVID's kind of, you know, put a clamp on a lot of that. But if there's somebody that's interested in maybe trying to resurrect that, and I don't know, maybe in this day and age of everybody's got whatever kind of app on their smartphone, it's maybe been overcome by events. But I just wanted to reinforce the idea that that's out there as a potential, you know, opportunity for somebody to pick up and run with. And then outreach, we're going to be doing the rework of the resources that are available online for the general community going forward. Okay, so good efforts. Give me back my arms. Okay. Anyway, the Cobb County folks are getting ready to implement phase 4. And for those of you that are not familiar, the emergency location marker system, which leverages US National Grid, largely got its first impetus or thinking started within this committee. And basically what happened, ShareGeo picked up the torch and did all of the enablement to make that, initial idea work its way through. Well, those markers now exist in a variety in 9 different states. Their Kennedy Space Center has them deployed there. There's recently been an application put in to put them at the rest of NASA's facilities. And this was after a science board at NASA looked at all the ways that you could mark a trail system and have an emergency marker out there. And they came to the conclusion basically that what this committee figured out was the way to do business. And so Cobb County, Georgia, which is in the Atlanta metro, has been spearheading the effort in Georgia, and they're getting ready to implement phase 4 in that state. And so that will be 1,000 plus additional markers on the trails in that state, in that county. And they've put up an excellent Esri story map. And if you'd like to go take a look at it, it's got a variety of things, as you can tell there by the right hand marker there. And for those that have sat in on the National Implementation Work Group, we've already hearing stories that they're facilitating a couple of rescues a week using this system. So, we've got a tried and true system that goes well beyond the original example that was implemented by BJ Kohlstedt in northern Minnesota, and now it's grown into basically a national project. So that's a pretty interesting thing. Randy Knipple and Jim Klassen managed to work through a project. I got to go back here. Give me a second. And we've finally gotten that thing to the point where we're ready to release it, and the monkey is on my back for not having moved it along faster. In fact, I had this slide in the last presentation saying it'd be out next week, but it will be on the street next week. Trust me. So anyway,
if everybody knows what this is.
Yep. Go ahead, Randy. Please explain it.
Oh, okay. So what this is a web service. You can put a URL in your browser window and try it once you know what syntax. And then there are some arguments or some additional information that you can provide on the URL to give it a lat long and a date. And what it will do is return the correct magnetic declination diagram for that location at that time. And it comes back as a little graphic. And so it's very easy to plug that in to like ArcMap. So when we're creating a whole library of maps, you can just have that URL automatically constructed based on the center of the map. And it will go to this little website, return that image and plug it into the map so that every map has the correct calculated magnetic declination diagram for that map. It's huge. Nobody else has done it. It exists in an Esri product that you have to pay extra money for and gives you a bunch of other stuff. But this is so elegant. It's just that one little tiny piece that is otherwise, there's no other way to do it, frankly. And it's just really slick. And it's a real big deal that ShareGeo did this.
Okay. Thank you, Randy. Okay. So BJ Kohlstedt, for those of you that are old enough to remember a TV show called Paladin, the byline was "Have gun, will travel." But in the case of BJ Kohlstedt, she's got "Have grid, will travel." And so the arrangement, this is significant. And I know BJ, you're on the call here. She was the emergency manager of the year for 2020. She is going to be making herself available to travel across the state Share Geo will fund her travel to get her to be able to come out and do presentations. And so, although we're still in the lockdown, BJ is more than happy to talk to folks via the web or get on her schedule for when this COVID thing goes away, because she'll fill up fast. I know, because anybody that knows BJ, she's a wonderful gal, does a fabulous job of presenting. And so if you want to learn more about U.S. National Grid, if you want to help your decision makers know more about U.S. National Grid, if you want to get down in the trenches with your emergency response folks, she's your gal. BJ, you want to add anything?
No, thanks, Steve. I'm excited to do it.
Okay, great. Thank you, BJ. Okay, so what did I forget? Are there other victories or defeats out there that I missed?
Me.
Okay, with that, we press on. All right, so project team reports. Here we go. Just a reminder before we get going on this, collaboration, our website. You can find all of the project team work. Web pages are down here. You click on one, it'll drop you into the project team, and you'll be able to work your way through here. Here's geospatial assistance, membership, blah, 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 what the charter is, what the work plan is, if they generate any reports, meeting info, work papers, blah, blah, blah. So that's there and ready to go. And kind of hand in hand with that, these project teams don't work unless we've got volunteers that stick up their hands and say, I want to work on that project team or whatever. But if it's just that you want to be put on the mailing list to join our, to be able to know about webinars or training and social events, whatever might be the case, just send me an email at chair@mgacepc.org. Or if you want to do something, either volunteer for, supporting one of these project teams or being available to support another GIS person should they get sick with COVID or whatever the case might be, you can do all of that by clicking this link and filling out the form where that takes you to. Okay, the leadership team, we did not meet during this period of time since our last meeting on October 1st. So I really don't have anything as an update to report, but the vice chairs, Randy Knippel, and we got Brad Anderson, Brian Huberty, Corey Richter, and Stacy Stark as our leadership team. And that leads us into the first kind of major subgroup data. Critical infrastructure. I think that brings Stacy up if you're with us. Going once.
Hi, I am here. Thanks, Steve. So I don't have too much more to report from this critical infrastructure group since the last quarterly meeting, but I think there's a lot of new folks on the call. So I'll just do a brief overview. What we are trying to do is update the data that we have statewide, and most of this would be coming from the high-fill databases. We're trying to update the fire stations, police, from those and healthcare facilities from those sources by talking to the GIS and emergency management folks county by county. Right now we have some other contract work in which we're working with several counties, and so the slide that Steve has up here is a web application that we're using to get feedback from them on how the data is or is not accurate. And I just pulled this morning some of the responses we've received, and pretty much every county that we have, we've sent this out to about 10 counties, and we've received and verified the data for about 5 so far. But for instance, Cass County had 7 changes, Dodge County had 3 changes, Itasca County had 6 changes, and LeSueur County had 5 changes. A lot of these are things like that fire department is no longer active, or this location is in the wrong place. Sometimes the address is incorrect, rarely, but sometimes the name is incorrect. Sometimes the jurisdiction is incorrect, and that happens sometimes with a lot of the tribal and county partners. They would like to have the fire station listed under tribal jurisdiction versus a county jurisdiction, and that sort of thing. So we are getting good feedback on this. The plan is to post what we have when we can compile it into a statewide database just for fire and police right now on the Minnesota Geocommons. Probably like February. We're a little bit behind schedule because we had some other priority work come in related to COVID, but we are going to make the verified data available publicly through the University of Minnesota. And I'm happy to report too that since the last meeting, I had a great meeting with Andrew and Carla at HSEM, and we are coordinating this effort so that if they need verified data, they will get that from us for the county level fire and police data. They are verifying other data sets, but we're not duplicating efforts. We're going to coordinate this. So eventually we'll have some good local Minnesota critical infrastructure data. If you're interested in more about the project or interested in participating, and especially if you're interested in having your county or jurisdiction cross-check what we have from the national sources, that'd be great. We'd love to work with you to just share this application so that we can get those in our master database. Thanks.
Well,
Absolutely fabulous.
Stacy, are you ready to like engage every county in the state? I mean, there are ways to do that.
Well, we have an application that's ready for every county. We don't have, if every county had questions and needed support walking through anything, we don't have that kind of capacity right now. So that's why we've been doing it a little more slowly. So it's kind of word of mouth. But right, I know that eventually we'll want to just blast this out statewide. And
well, we can certainly do the metro counties right now.
Yep. And, you know, and I'd be curious, I wonder if the metro county data isn't quite accurate, actually, because I think these national sources do benefit from having the Metro GIS data online. But so those might be simple changes to make. But yeah, if you're we're not planning on making any changes to this application. So I can't promise that we'd be able to process the data real quickly, but if you are ready or have an opportunity to share it, I think that's fine. I can send you the information and a note to go with it.
Okay, yeah, just send it to me and I'll share it with the other metro counties.
Okay.
Very cool. Thank you very much, Stacy. Corey, you're with us. So here we go into the next section of data, the damage assessment data standard. And I think it looks like that, doesn't it, Corey?
Yep, it's done.
For those that you're wondering what we're talking about, Minnesota damage assessment data standard was an effort to try to, in fact, I think I should shut up and let Corey explain it. Go, Corey.
I don't know, Steve, you got a pretty good way of explaining it. So the damage assessment data standard, the idea is that we pulled together as many sources as we could, as well as reviewed FEMA documents and HCM documents. And I know Carla and some other folks were in on some of the different meetings that we had discussing how to pull together attributes. And we actually mirrored the state tool as far as many of the attributes and the domains that we use, just to make sure that we're staying in the same line. So one, it makes it easier for all of us to share data. But the other part too is if you collect everything, then the idea is that you would be prepared with enough information to fill out any forms for reimbursement. So very simplified, straightforward way of doing it. I know it's already been shared outside of the Minnesota community. Steve, you've got your story about that. I've been sharing it with my user group through VOCI, the virtual EOC community, and we've put it out a few other places. So been well received.
Yeah, there was what, 3 years worth of hard work. And
Something like that.
yeah, so again, my hat off to everybody that served on that. And the joke about the toast is once you get something like this to where it is officially now a Minnesota standard within government. So it's a standardized way for everybody to be on the same sheet of music going forward. So a wonderful development. So thank you again to you and your team. Well done.
Thank you.
Underground utilities mapping data thing. Basically, this is an eating the elephant 1 pound at a time. It's a collaborative effort between this committee and Gopher State One Call. Barb Chetterberg is the operational control of this. She is the COO of Gopher State One Call. So she serves as the chair of this group, and myself as the vice chair. I'm the guy that's the administrative pack mule. The last thing I would want to tell you here, so the group is an amazing collaboration of public, private. There's 34 people that are involved in it. It spans from the guy that's digging the ditch to people that have been paid millions of dollars to provide consulting expertise for utility type related stuff. And so we've been gaining some very serious traction with this group on moving things forward. It's broken down into 4 what we call small groups. Well, first group there, the facility operator utility mapping group. It's led by a guy by the name of Travis Beeran, and he's actually with a company that's based in Omaha, Nebraska, and they are interested in defining where is our stuff. So it's about how a utility maps in where their underground infrastructure, what kind of data standards should there be on them doing that. And then the next group, led by our very own Brad Anderson up there in Moorhead, Minnesota, is the Locate Data Flows and Management Group. And the easy way to think about them is, once you know where your stuff is, how do you share that awareness with other people? So they're working on the concepts of what do we do to share that data within the underground construction and sensing community, so that we can reduce strikes on underground infrastructure and hopefully keep from having a major incident. For some of you that are not familiar with it, PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, had a incident back in, I believe it was 2010, which they struck an underground gas pipe because of bad GIS. And by the time it's run its course through the courts, there are still pending cases. They settled something like $650 million in damages on individual that died in the event, property damage. They were fined over $2 billion by the state of California, and there's about $4 billion worth of lawsuits still working their way through courts. So this issue of hitting underground infrastructure or not knowing where stuff is a significant one. Leading the outreach group is Karen Straub. She is the managing editor for a publication known as Damage Prevention Professional. And last but not least, Dean Parker is a lawyer from Chicago that is the legal counsel for Gopher State One Call, and he's leading the regulations and security, looking at what currently are the regulations in the state of Minnesota, what are other places doing around the globe with regard to this. We recently have engaged with the it's an underground utilities registration effort commission based in the, actually it's in the cabinet of the government of the United Kingdom. So like I'm saying, this is a very, in and of by itself, could be its own self-standing thing. And for the time being, the EPC facilitated the startup and the initial delivery of meetings, engagement, and whatnot to get this thing rolling. So that's where that one's at. Education gems and the GPS thing that we talked about, those jobs are open to anybody interested in jumping in. Outreach conferences and online, again, open. So it moves us to response, geospatial assistance. What this effort is about, Brian Huberty and I will be working to try to get the charter in place and the work plan for this. But this is the whole thing, that we've got all this capability in this country to be able to support the emergency services sector with remote sensing. And on one end, an emergency manager down in a county doesn't know how to ask for it. On the other end, the pipeline to make it happen is just always a fly by the seat of your pants thing through the FEMA infrastructure. So what we're going to try to do here is develop a what's available, how do I get it, and what's it's going to cost kind of a, playbook. And once we get it kind of into the straw man, we'll start working more effectively with other partners across the state. But for the time being, we got to get a straw man in place before we got something to be able to sell or whatever. Brian, is there anything more you want to add to that? You with us?
Yeah, just that we should, once we get this fleshed out, do like a test run with a couple of groups or organizations and see how far it goes.
Yep. So thanks for jumping in on this one, Brian. Really appreciate it. Situational sharing situational awareness piece. We already talked about this. The viewer, the MinSave thing, designed to be able to go out to the public. What I would just like to pass along on this is that, hold on one second here, is that, again, you heard from Stacy with her effort with critical infrastructure. And then we know about Randy's passion for US National Grid. Well, the idea of the situational awareness viewer is we want to be able to put those things into the awareness viewer, to it be a partnership to leverage that piece going forward. So that's the segue for Randy to chime in and talk about what's right now on the bottom border of the Minnesota Situational Awareness Viewer. Randy, you got it. US National Grid.
Okay. Well, we created all of the maps statewide. If you haven't seen those, pretty excited about that. There's an application, interactive map application out there that acts as the spatial index interface into getting those maps individually. They're all also can be accessed through FTP if you want to get a bunch of them, or grab a bunch of them at a time. But we had a request from somebody at DNR saying, these maps are nice, but they'd like to integrate them into their own applications as well and directly into ArcMap. So the maps are available through a REST service, which accesses a polygon data set where there's one polygon for each map that includes the URL to the map. And so that can be incorporated directly into any other application. We also exposed it as a WFS. So it can be incorporated into any kind of open standard application. So it really opens it up so that the map index and then the hyperlinks to the maps can be incorporated into any other application as well. So I think that's a pretty neat thing. Means that it's not limited to just having it completely contained within the application that we created. Any questions about that?
I would just add on to that, Randy, that we've incorporated into the bottom of the situational viewer.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So you want to.
Well, yeah, that's a demonstration of that capability. So while there, at the bottom of that web page was a link to the application, it also included links to the services behind the application. And in this application here, then those services were simply added in as another layer. So you can turn those on if you just, well, you don't have this live, but then in this application, you can click on any one of those squares and get the hyperlink to the map, click right on that hyperlink and see the map, download the PDF file. So just opens up more potential for integrating those maps into a variety of other applications.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that moves us into old business or new business. Do we have any old business out there that we need to hit? Going once, going twice, gone. Any new business? Going once, going twice.
I have something, Steve.
Okay, what do you got?
All right. Well, today I received an email from the National Hazards Center out of the University of Colorado Boulder. I'm going to put in the chat, I'm going to put this link here. And they're asking, I don't know if any of you have heard of this group, but it's primarily a research center that focuses on natural hazards, not all natural, but mostly natural hazards in the US, and it's mostly research institutions. However, this call is for 1,000 letters, and what the ask is for at least 1,000 people across the country to write a 500-word note to the center that they will then compile and send to the new U.S. administration. So I'm just going to read a little blurb here. You might share your wisdom regarding what you believe needs to be created or restored given the enormous perils that we face. Perhaps your focus is on who or what we need to invest in terms of our hazards and disaster workforce, scientific capabilities, or our mitigation, recovery, and emergency management infrastructure. Whatever you write, I know it will be grounded in what you know, what you do, and what you envision will help us move forward together as a nation and in partnership with others around the world. So I'm trying to, as I said, I just got this today. I think it'd be great if we flooded them with letters from Minnesota. There's a lot of great research going on in climate change areas and impacts to different population groups. But this group too, I thought I'd just bring it up because I think that this group too could have another perspective on the data needs and potentially workforce needs and other kinds of research or infrastructure related to this. So feel free to check out that link, and if you're compelled, write a letter.
Stacy, let's do this. Please send it to me, and as a meeting wrap-up item, I will include that in the send that I put out. Does that work? You're muted. Anyway, we're assuming that she heard that, and we're good to go. So Stacy, just send it to me, and we'll go forward from that.
Sorry, Steve, I heard you. I will email you. It's in the chat as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And Allison, I think, did you stick up your hand saying you'd like to chat for a minute? Allison Slats?
No, I didn't intentionally do that.
Okay, then I must have misread it. Oh, I'm sorry. I conflated you with Stacy. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, that takes us down to the chair closing comments. Ian.
Steve, can I interrupt for a second? I have
Sure.
one item.
Yeah,
Thank
sure,
you.
Joe. Go ahead.
Thank you. For those who don't know me, I'm Joe Saplatel. I'm a GIS specialist that works with Randy, and I'm on the 3D Geomatics Committee, and we're charged with helping coordinate the purchase of LiDAR data. And for those who don't know much about LiDAR data, it's essentially the base we need to start with to create surfaces like digital elevation models and things like that. You can create other products from that, especially like contours. So if any of these things I'm saying are of interest to you, we've got some ongoing projects around the state. We recently kicked off our project in the central part of the state, which includes the metro. So if you have any interest in applying, you know, these derivative products to emergency management projects, please talk to like your county GIS specialist or your county surveyor, because or the engineer, they were all invited to a kickoff meeting a couple weeks ago. And so we're going to start helping them plan for their budgets so that in 2022, we can acquire LiDAR across this like 18 or 19 county area in the central part of the state. But we are doing collects in other areas. So I know Allison's here. She's a co-chair of this, and many of you know Sean Vaughn. You can reach out to any of us. We also have a generic LiDAR account right there on our GAC page as well. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Steve.
Hey, Steve. Steve, it occurred to me that that might be a good presentation for the underground utilities work group.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's about getting a highly accurate surface model of the state, and underground utilities are relative to that.
Sure.
And it may be of interest to just make them aware, and that gets into the private sector. It'd be very, might be very useful for them to hear that.
We're actually, the leadership's meeting tomorrow, and we're trying to frame out a presentation schedule for the next 90 days. So I'll raise that there. But Joe, I think also, if you could just send me a little blurb with like a link in it relative to supporting what you just said there, again, as a meeting wrap-up item, I will send that out in a note. So does that work, Joe?
Sounds great.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Going once, going twice. Anybody else? Okay, here we go. As everybody knows, I couldn't help myself. I
thought you were going on a positive note with
I
these.
know. I couldn't help myself though. So the winner is CDC. Yeah, some of you know I actually worked with the CDC back in 2005 trying to get this fixed for the annual flu map, that would do something more than showing which state had a high outbreak of flu in it. And here we are 15 years later displaying the outbreak of flu levels, or COVID, I should say, by entire states. What level of granularity does that give anyone? Nothing. So I'm sorry, CDC, but you've messed up here massively. So
hey, just a side note on this. I mean, I have been using this. It is useful to a certain degree. Minnesota was actually ranked highest in terms of number of cases per 100,000 population on Saturday in the nation. Not a notable thing. Sad.
all right. So anyway, here we are. Okay. Pull out your notebooks and check to see. Next EPC meeting, March 11th. Does that work? Does that make any sense? Or should we slide it to the 18th? What do we want to do there?
Reasonable.
Corey, does that work for you?
Yep, looks fine.
Brian, you good?
Throw it out there, Steve.
Yeah, okay. So we'll pencil it in March 11th. If there's any screaming and hollering, send me an email and we'll figure it out. Topic for next time we get together. The leadership team here is going to get together sometime in the near future. We'll figure it out. Go from there. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Anyone second?
Second.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we close out the admin portion of the EPC meeting. You got a 5-minute go get a Coke or whatever you want to do. And we have a fabulous presentation coming up with Carla, Chad, and Dan. So here we go.